Duplass, you play Josh Fefferman on the Amazon show Transparent. How did you come to be considered for this part?
It was a very strange and unusual scenario. I was not really an actor before I became a part of Transparent. I'm mostly a writer-director, make my own stuff. I happened to be at a dinner party with Jill Soloway. And while I was at this dinner party, we were just talking about movies, and it's just a way that directors get together sometimes, and we dish about actors and whatnot. And Jill was telling me that she was about to create a television show, and she had the entire family, but she did not have the son. And she was looking for a wildly charismatic / insecure Jewish man in his mid-30s to play the son. And like any typical director would do, I said, oh, great, let me help you cast it. I know most of those guys in town, and I had a lot of ideas, and I was really trying to push a few of them. She said, no, it has to be something different, something that I didn't expect. 30 minutes later in the conversation, she stopped and she said, it's you. You're him. And I giggled like you did, and I said, no, I'm about to make my own show. I was about making a show on HBO called Togetherness, and I said, I'm not an actor. I've dabbled here and there, but just for fun, for my friends. And she said, I want you to come in. I want you to read tomorrow. And I ended up going in and reading with Gabby and Amy, and we did the barbecue scene from the pilot. And it was one of those moments where lightning strikes on camera. And I don't know, I looked over at Jill after the audition or whatever. I mean, I was just really doing it as an experiment, but I looked over at Jill and she had this look as if to say, like, who are you to deny what is happening here? So that's how I got cast in it. But even then, I have to say, it was a TV show on Amazon. It was very early days for Amazon. It was a place to buy toilet paper. That's that's all I had thought. And I was like, well, I'll do the pilot for this web show, and I think it'll be a great learning experience for me as a writer director, to be able to figure out what my actors go through. And 6 months later, we won a Golden Globe, and now acting is the primary thing that I do in my life, and everything is different and kind of better now.
Yeah, so you said that you primarily worked as a filmmaker, but as a producer and writer and director. But what other previous acting experience had you done before?
My previous acting experience was when I was in my late 20s in Austin. I was in a Meisner acting cult, is what I like to refer to it. I took classes just because at that time, and I still think that actors and directors are terrified of each other. So I was just trying to get to that deeper place and wanting to be able to communicate with actors better. But other than that, it was really just a smattering of being in my friends' things every once in a while. I was the primary camera operator on all my brothers and my work as well. So there was really never an option for me to actually get in front of the camera. Right before Transparent, I did do quite a few episodes of the Mindy Project for Mindy Kaling, who's just a friend of ours who, when she created her show, she thought it would be fun for Mark and I to play new agey midwives poaching her OBGYN clients. And that was fun, but I was still kind of like a Muppet. Mark really had the lines, and I was like his Muppet sidekick who would say 3 or 4 things an episode for a laugh, So I honestly, Transparent is really the first serious acting job I've ever done.
So your character Josh had a very standout episode last year where he goes on a road trip with Trace Lissette's character.
Yes.
And it's really the spectacular episode. What was it like to film those scenes of the road trip last season?
Well, it's always great when you can break out of your comfort zone and go on location. We shoot a lot of the show, believe it or not, on Paramount. The set designer she's the production designer is just incredible, Kat. And so we actually went out to the desert. We went out to Palmdale, several hours outside of Los Angeles, and we really just spent 2.5 days focused on just this episode, just this arc of this episode. It was, for Jill, it was one of the most important arcs and moments that she wanted to create all season. So it was really Trace and Jill and I, feeling this thing out and improvising as we went and trying new things. And it was pretty magical, exploratory, loose process that felt really special.
And one of the other great things about the show is the chemistry that you and Amy and Gabby have as siblings. It's so believable watching you guys play off of each other. How was the foundation for that laid down?
Well, there are a few elements. I think, first of all, Jill wittingly or unknowingly cast 3 people who have incredibly close and sometimes weird relationships with their siblings. I mean, Mark and I have talked very openly about how he and I have our own marriage and how challenging that can be, and dysfunctional and incredibly powerful it can be at the same time. And Gabby and Amy both have the same thing with their sisters. So we all understand that. And Jill has that with her sister, Faith. The other thing, that built the foundation is we did a lot of workshopping with Joan Shekel, who's an acting coach and teacher in Los Angeles. And she really created a lot of just physical scenarios where we just were falling all over each other and going through a lot of emotional stuff. So by the time we got on set, we were absolutely 100% physically, emotionally, mentally comfortable with each other. And we spent a lot of time hanging out. But I think more than anything, to be honest, is just Jill's intuition in terms of who she casts and why she casts them. And because the first day that I met Amy and Gabby, we already had that chemistry. We already had that understanding. And I guess we didn't deny it in the end.
And is there a personal favorite moment that you have that for Josh that Josh has had over the course of the series?
Wow, personal favorite moment. This is a really small and subtle moment. But in the beginning of season 3, Josh and Allie sort of explore what I call like the gray gardens potential of their relationship, which is they both feel that they are unlovable by a normal human being, and they don't really know how to love anybody else. So maybe they're just going to live together and ride this thing out and just have sex with other people, but essentially cohabitate. And that goes badly in good Fefferman form. But later in the season, when Josh goes to Kansas in order to reclaim his paternity of his son and to try to be there for his son, and it all falls apart. The moment at which Josh knows, and everyone pretty much knows, that his son Colton is going to tell him that it's not working out, Josh says it's okay for Allie, his sister, to come in the room. And there's something, that moment was just so special. She walked in accidentally, and Josh, we decided there on the moment that it would be okay for Josh to say, hey, it's okay, she can be here. Was really powerful, just to for someone as ego-driven as Josh can be, to let his sister in and to let him witness what will probably undoubtedly be one of the most soul-crushing moments of his entire life, and for her to be there and be there for him. I'm really close to Gabby personally, and as well as all my family members, and for me to have her there when that happened just made the moment so real and so vulnerable. and it was just a really small thing, but it just kind of made it's kind of a marquee moment in my own mind.
So, with the upcoming season, I know you can't, you probably won't say anything about where it goes, and that's okay. We want to be surprised like everybody else.
Sure.
Is there a direction that you wanted to see Josh go in for this fourth season?
Wow. Well, I'm pretty free falling in terms of what Jill wants, but that is generally a conversation that we both have. I mean, she asks for our input, and I give her plenty of my thoughts about, given what happened in season 3, where Josh begins in season 4, and I can tell you a few fun things. That, you know, Jill and I early on talked about, you know, Josh really hits rock bottom in season by the end of season 3, and I think you know, we talked about Josh being just, you know, spent at that point. And Jill's first idea, she called me just like on my cell phone like 7 months before we shot. She's like, I think Josh is going to be chubby in season 4. So Josh has a little Feffermans fat suit. I wear a fat suit in season 4. Josh is a little bit chubby. He's a little lost. He's not a player, and his wardrobe is very down. He's very un-Joshy this year, which is a great start. And he begins the season by cohabitating with his mother, who I
Dear
think,
God.
who I think Josh feels is the only person more hopeless than his own self. So I think there's like some weird thing where if Josh can help his mother, maybe there's hope for him too.
I just also, I'm thinking like of where this show ended at season 3, and I'm thinking there's so much hope for Shelley at that point. It's like it seems like a weird choice because there's this amazing moment of hope and positivity for Shelley,
Yeah.
and it's just like and I just imagined like Josh would just say, "I can't beat that."
I know. For her to cohabitate with Josh after that high point is probably not a good idea for her. But they
Yeah,
are the Feffermans, and that's what they do.
I was about to say, I think that's the Pfefferman family motto.
Yeah.
This probably isn't a good idea.
That is a great poster tagline. This is probably a bad idea. ...
Exactly. It's the equivalent of the Bluth family with "I've made a huge mistake."
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So, you mentioned that your primary thing was in writing and directing, and also you did a lot of producing. You were an executive producer on one of my favorite films from the past couple of years, The Skeleton Twins.
Oh, thank you.
That's a great movie. Has one of the best lip syncing scenes ever
Yeah,
in a movie.
it's pretty untouchable.
Oh yeah, it was epic. What else do you have other than your acting, your role on Transparent being your primary gig right now? What else do you have in the pantheon of whatever else you're doing in terms of writing and producing and directing? What else is on the table for you right now?
Well, I acted in a few other films last year, and one of them is Beatrice at Dinner, is Miguel Arteta's movie with Salma Hayek, and that just released this weekend. And have another release coming out in July that I acted in. And it's Gillian Robespierre's Landline movie, which stars Jenny Slate and John Turturro, Edie Falco, and myself. That's coming out in July. And then my brother and I are continuing to do, you know, our sort of like mini indie studio work. And we still have a movie deal with Netflix, and we have a TV deal with HBO. And we've recently started a sort of branded content ad wing of Duplass Brothers that's going to be launching this summer.
So just to wrap this up, we are an awards site. And
Yes.
if you were to get nominated for an Emmy for supporting actor in a comedy series, which is very possible, the Emmy voting's happening right now, and you got a Critics' Choice nomination this past year, you would submit an episode that you think would be best example of your work from the past season. Which episode would you consider submitting?
I would submit the episode on the road with Trace Lysette and myself, the one that you were talking about. I think it's a lot of things happened in that episode. I think Josh jumps out of his comfort zone. I sing a song in this episode that comes from Jill's deep past, and it's Josh really taking a chance and being vulnerable and admitting that he actually does want to be a musician. And I think the other thing that's really remarkable about it is I've been told that this episode might represent a landmark moment in television where a cisgender male takes interest in dating a transgender woman, but it's not a fetish and it's not an experiment. It's just simply because he's interested in her. Of course, it goes horribly wrong, but that has nothing to do with Josh's transphobia. It has pretty much everything to do with him being a Fefferman. But it's a really important episode, I think, in terms of the ongoing civil rights movement that the show is also a part of. And also, I think I'm so proud of what Trace and Jill and I created there. And it's a hard episode, but it's also real and important. And I'm just proud to be a part of it.
Well, Josh, I mean, Josh, I just called you. I can't believe that.
Happens all the time.
Jay, I can't begin to thank you enough for this, and we wish you all the best on the upcoming season and the upcoming awards junket. Do we have is there a date yet for the new season, or?
I don't know if we have a date yet, but I think I know it's gonna be in the early fall.
Yeah, so like September, October, something like that.
Yeah, September, October. Yeah, it's usually right around the Emmys, actually.
Yeah, that's a weird thing. It premieres, and then you have to wait for
a year. I know.
Yeah, it's a strange business. It's a very strange bit. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, and all the best to you.
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate you.